Hello, I'm Zeke, and welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania. The guest I have today is a lawyer and councilwoman running for Court of Common Pleas judge in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. She has dedicated her life to the service of others, which is exactly why she's a democratically endorsed candidate. Thank you so much for being here, Lauren Hughes.
I'm Zeke, a doctor, a Pennsylvanian, and an unapologetic supporter of democratic values. You might have seen me on social media working my ass off for Democrats and meeting some pretty amazing people along the way, like President Barack Obama and Governor Josh Shapiro. For years, I've knocked thousands of doors all over Pennsylvania and poured my heart and soul into supporting candidates and causes that make a difference, from local school board races to national elections. The personal is political, and I take every election in Pennsylvania personally. Where the mainstream media has failed you, I will give you truth and independence. You'll hear from Democratic leaders, candidates, and changemakers who are working to improve the health of the Commonwealth, and it won't be boring as hell. No matter where you are, I'll meet you with hope and a plan to make your community better one day at a time. Welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Dr. Zeke. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So this is your first time on a podcast.
Yes, it is. I listen to podcasts regularly, but I've never been on one, so this should be exciting.
I'm so happy that you're here. We're going to talk all about your campaign and about you, play some games. So let's get right into it, okay?
Love games.
What types of cases does a common pleas judge hear, and why are you running for this position?
Okay, the Court of Common Pleas in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is the trial court. So we call that the trial court because they hear all of the major criminal and civil cases.
Mm-hmm.
In the Court of Common Pleas, specifically in Montgomery County, but in most counties, but I can just speak to Montgomery County, there's
Sure.
5 different divisions on the Court of Common Pleas, and that's civil, family, criminal, orphans court, and juvenile. So we run the gamut. We hear everything from felony misdemeanor cases to divorce custody cases, guardianship issues, adoptions, just civil, your standard med mal cases, as you would know, Dr. Zeke. I mean, you wouldn't know Dr. Zeke because Dr. Zeke is great. He's never having to deal with that. But we are that trial level court. And a lot of people, that's a great question because a lot of people get really confused as I'm out campaigning about the difference between the Court of Common Pleas and also the magisterial district courts, which we have right here in Montgomery County. And that is like the first court that someone would enter. You hear the traffic cases, preliminary hearings if you're charged with a criminal offense and things like that. And any disputes under $12,000 go through the magisterial district court, which is a different court. But I get that question often because a lot of people are like, will you be able to take care of my traffic tickets? I'm like, no, nobody's doing that anyway, but no, that's a totally different court. So thank you for that question.
Yeah.
About the Court of Common Pleas and why I'm doing it. Well, that's a loaded question because I started my career, I wanted to be a trial lawyer. It started from when I was a child when my mom said, first, you need to be a lawyer because I seemed to talk back a lot. So she thought that would be the perfect career path for me. And I knew I wanted to get into criminal defense work. I knew I was a public servant. I've seen people in my community going through the criminal justice system, and I didn't quite understand what was going on in that realm. So I knew when I went to law school that I wanted to be a public defender. And that was my first job out of law school. And when I started as a public defender, I really saw the need just for fairness and integrity and quite honestly, people seeing people that look like them and can understand some of the issues that they have seen. And I was like, what can I do to help in that realm? So I always thought that down the line that I would like to run for judge, but I did not think that opportunity would present itself as soon as it did. It was always like when I turned 55, 60, that's
55 or 60.
55. I had a plan. I always have a plan. 55 or 60, that's when I'll run. And as God sees it, I am just turned 40 years old and I am running and an opportunity presented itself. And I know I did the work. I've served in the public defender's office and currently I'm in the solicitor's office. And I've seen, again, all in public service, just the need and the intersections of courts and social services. And I feel like I would be doing the community, the world a disservice if I didn't take my talents to where I best see fit. And I feel like with my integrity, with my honesty, with my empathy, my compassion, I feel like this is the role for me and I can do a lot of good work.
Well, I'm really happy you didn't wait another decade to throw your hat in the ring. There you go. I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
I have a good feeling about this run for you. I do. Well, we're going to play a game. It's one of my favorite games to play with judicial candidates, and it's called Am I Lying? Okay, because you have to be like a real life human lie detector.
Yes.
And so I'm going to tell you a couple of things, and you're going to tell me, am I lying or not?
Okay.
So true or false? I have never had a cavity.
False.
That is true. I've never had a cavity.
Cavity?
I don't know. I've actually,
All the secrets, Dr. Zeke.
I know, I'm telling you, I've
I'm
never had a
intrigued now.
cavity. Brush in the morning, at night, never had a cavity, but I have had a root canal. And this is a funny story. Okay.
Wow.
So, well, it's actually not that funny. So I was roughhousing with my brother. I was giving him a bear hug and he threw his head back and hit me in the tooth, one of my front teeth, and it killed the tooth. And so I had to get a root canal and one of my front two teeth, but I've actually never had a cavity. That doesn't count as a cavity, by the way.
It does not. What?
It wasn't, I know. So I have had dental work done, but due to trauma inflicted by my younger brother, still love you, Zach. No hard feelings. It was actually my fault.
Let me put this candy away.
I know. But yeah, I've never had a cavity. So that is actually true. The second one, I asked my wife to marry me at a baseball game.
I met your wife. She's pretty cool.
Yeah. She is cool.
True.
That is true. Yes. My wife, the lovely Jessica, is a diehard Atlanta Braves fan. Diehard. Okay. If you ever went to her room where she grew up, it looks like an homage to the Atlanta Braves. Okay. You've got a Braves bunk bed, Braves wallpaper, cutouts of all of the World Series players still tacked up, turning yellow on the newspaper. And so she told me when we first started dating, she said, you have two options. You can either ask me to marry you at a Braves game. We're getting married at a Braves game. So I flew her down to Atlanta and I asked her at the bottom of the second inning and she said yes. So yeah. And luckily the Braves won that game and her favorite player at the time hit a home run. So yeah, I did ask my wife to marry me at a Braves baseball game.
Wow, that's such a great story.
I know. So there you go. She got what she wanted. Here's another one. True or false? I have hiked the entire Appalachian Trail.
False.
That's false. Yeah, I've hiked on parts of it, but never the entire thing. I think it'd be fun.
So you like hiking?
I do like hiking. Yeah, I do like. I like the outdoors. I go camping with my kids occasionally. That's the thing I do with my kids. Jess does not like
camping or glamping.
No, camping. I mean, so it's tent camping. Okay, it is tent camping. Like I cook over the fire, and we go canoeing and swimming and everything. But yeah, I mean, we do have some modern stuff. Like I bring a grill sometimes if it's raining outside. But we do tent camp. We do the tent
like on the ground.
On the ground. Well, I have a cot, but the kids sleep on cots or the ground, whatever they want to do. So yeah, but I have not hiked the entirety of the Appalachian Trail. Maybe someday. Who knows?
And your wife does not do this with you.
She does not camp. No, she prefers a hotel room over camping, which is fine. We all have our things.
I'll join you. Yeah, me and your wife can go hang out and shop and spa. You guys are in the wilderness.
All right, here's another one. I have never gotten a speeding ticket. True or false?
True.
False. I've gotten speeding tickets before. Yeah.
You don't have any cavities.
And I've definitely gotten my fair share of speeding tickets. I've never had any points deducted, but I have gotten speeding tickets in the past. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, here's the last
time you got a speeding ticket.
Oh my gosh.
A long time.
Oh God, a decade, maybe more. It's been a long time since I've got a speeding ticket. Once you get kids, you slow down a little bit. Yeah. You just slow down. It's just a natural thing, I think. Yeah. All right, here's the last one. I am an Eagle Scout. True or false?
True.
That is true. I kind of gave it away with the camping and everything, but yeah, I am an Eagle Scout. That was
my stepfather is, Eagle Scout, all the ranks.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, I was actually Life Scout is the rank right before Eagle Scout, and I got stuck at Life Scout probably for about 2 years before I just finally committed to finishing to be Eagle Scout. But a lot of people park it at Life and they're finished, but there's a cutoff. Like once you turn 18, you're done. You can never earn Eagle Scout again. So that's why it's got that prestige there. Got to get it while you're young.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for playing Am I Lying? Very good job.
That was fun.
Well, you were raised by your mother in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Who was a political activist.
Yes.
So how did seeing her activism influence your career decisions later in life?
Wow, that's another great question, Dr. Zeke. I love these questions. Well, when I was 13 is the first time my mom ran for political office. And my mom was a physical therapist by trade, making great money. And she said she wanted to run to be a state rep. And I'm like, okay, wow. What was that about? And even at that young age, I knew the difference between money. I could count dollar signs. I'm like, why do you you have this job? Why do you want to, be but she's always been active in our community. We live right across. Well, my father passed away when I was 11 years old. And when he passed away, we moved in with our great aunt and uncle right here in Norristown. And right across the street from my house that I grew up in was a community center. And my mom became the executive director of that community center. So that's really where her involvement started. And then from there, just building relationships and networking, someone tapped her on the shoulder and thought she would be a great candidate to run for state representative. And this was back when Montgomery County wasn't the blue wall it is today. It was red.
Right.
So on that journey with her, unwillingly, because I definitely didn't want anything to do with politics. I thought it was mean. I saw people saying negative things about my mom. I was like, that's my mother. And I knew all the good work that she was doing. But as I was going across this county, I just saw like the needs, just my interest in public service just come from the needs. Like I grew up here, right here in Norristown. And as I go around this county, I see the differences in all these townships and municipalities, whether it's funding, businesses, business development, economic development, all of that, you just see the differences. And as you start to think about why these differences are, it always leads back to something that has to do with politics. And it's something that I didn't think I would be involved in. But if you care about your community, you realize how important politics are. And that's what I try to stress to people that are like, I don't want to be involved in politics. I'm like, me neither. I really don't want to be involved in politics. But if you care about people and the things, and the only way to make change a lot of times has to go the political route. Right. And it's hard to explain to people because when they see all this negativity, I try to keep my TV turned off. When you turn on that TV, you just see so much negativity and it kind of discourages you from wanting to be active or do anything about it. But you have to stay involved. You have to be aware and you honestly have to vote. I mean, let's just start there. You have to vote.
You have to get engaged. And honestly, if someone tapped your mother to run for office, as much as I know now about being involved in Pennsylvania politics, that means that she was really engaged civically. That means that she was a leader in the community. That means that she was someone you could trust.
Yes.
And I feel like there are a lot of people that you can trust who are in politics. There are a lot of people who wake up every day who, go to Harrisburg or even locally, who are keeping things moving forward and taking care of their constituents.
Yes.
And we have to make sure that the leaders in the community, the people that we all care and trust, are running for these positions. Because if we step back and don't pay attention, then the bad actors are going to get in charge. And we see how that turns out.
Yes.
You had a very good role model to get you where you are today.
She's also she's my campaign momager. She manages my campaign. So that's a very interesting dynamic too, but she's excellent.
That is great. Mother knows best.
Yes.
You worked at Pennsylvania CareerLink full-time while going to night school to become a lawyer. And CareerLink is a state program designed to connect job seekers with employment opportunities and employers with qualified candidates. So what was your role at CareerLink?
My role at CareerLink was the basic career assessment and resume writing. Okay. So that was my first job. So when I first got out of undergrad, I wanted to go to law school right out of undergrad, but I was determined I needed to go to the University of Pennsylvania. I didn't care. That was the only school I was going to apply for. And I did that and I did not get in and I was devastated. And it was like, I can't go. There's no other schools. I just have to go to the University of Penn. So once I didn't get in, I was heartbroken and I'm like, I'll just have to get a job. But because I had my heart set on going to law school, I didn't put much thought into what I was going to do after undergrad. So I had a family friend that managed a CareerLink and got me into that role. And I'm great with people. And while I was in that role, I got to meet a lot of people and just telling them my story. They helped to encourage me, like, you need to try again. Like, you would be excellent. You need to try this again. So when I did, finally, 3 years later, I applied to law school and I got into a number of law schools. But Widener was the first one that I got the acceptance letter from. And they had a night program. And I really liked my job. It was easy enough that I knew that I could do it. You study sometimes at work and also go to law school at night. It was a great experience. They supported me through that the entire time. I often, now that I'm working back at the county and I have economic development and workforce development as one of my departments that I'm over in CareerLink falls under that. I get to go visit some of the same people that I worked with there.
That's so cool. They probably say, "Hey, we know you. You're a big attorney now."
They remember me back when.
That's great. So is it, how many years was this loss? Is it 3 or 4 years?
The night school is 4 years, but I did it in 3.5 because I went every summer.
Got it.
I wanted to be done.
That's crazy. Well, that
drive to Delaware. Now that I coached a mock trial team a couple years later after I graduated, a couple years ago, before the pandemic, and driving back and forth, I would go down there 3 nights. I'm like, how did I do this 4 nights a week in the evening, class starting at 6? ending at 10:30
Mm-hmm.
4 nights a week.
I respect the grind. I
Yeah.
really do. I honestly feel like, I wish you didn't have to go through that type of, experience necessarily to have to go to night school and work at the same time. But the fact that you did and you were grinding it out, that to me is incredible. And I'm sure you appreciate everything that you've accomplished, since then. So
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm
And
really
I
happy
always
to
said
that.
that when I would go to school, I had a classmate who was a physician that went back to law. I never could understand how she
What?
did that. She went back to law school
Wow.
and she had twins and she was driving from Baltimore and she did night school just like me. She would work and then come to law school at night in
It's a
family medicine.
terrible story. This is an
And I
absolutely
was like,
terrible
I
story.
have no complaints. I don't have any children. I don't have a husband. I don't have
God.
a career like a physician, and I don't have that drive. So I'm like, I have no excuse. And she was at the top of her game. Like I
Oh
would be
my
trying to study with
God.
her.
Do you still keep in touch with her? Like, what is she doing
No,
now?
we're friends on social media, but she does something in a corporation.
I sure as hell
Yeah,
hope so. My
yeah.
God.
It's like, I know you
Goodness.
never thought of Dr. Zeke. You never thought about going to law school.
Actually,
You
I have actually thought about going back to law school, and my wife said no. So I am not going to be joining you on the bar anytime
Okay.
soon. Okay. I'm gonna let you have that space.
Okay.
All right. You belong to the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. It's founded in 1913 at Howard University, comprised primarily of Black college-educated women, and the sorority considers the issues impacting the Black community and confronting challenges of African Americans and ultimately all Americans. So, how honored were you to be accepted into such a prestigious and noble organization?
I was super honored, super
Yeah.
honored. I went to Florida A&M University, which is a historically Black college in Tallahassee, Florida. And while on that campus, and a lot of times in historically Black colleges, being in a sorority or fraternity is like a rite of passage, right? But it's often more difficult because everybody wants to be a member. So I remember when I applied to be in this organization, we have a thing called Rush. I'm sure all
Yeah.
sororities
Yeah.
we had Rush and we had to do it at the convention center because that's how many people. And when I signed in, we had to sign in. I was number 600 and something. That's how many young women were there to be a part of this
Oh
organization.
my
And out
gosh.
of the 800 that ended up applying, only 55 of us were picked for
Oh
my line
wow.
per se.
Okay. Yeah.
So completely honored. And one thing I do when I explain to people, like, you're a member of sorority, like you're not in
Mhm.
college anymore. A lot of the historically Black sororities and fraternities, they go well beyond college, right?
Mhm.
They have
Yeah.
graduate chapters. People are able to join as graduates, and we can just continue that public service, that work in the community, right? And so it's just a wonderful privilege, that sisterhood, going from state to state, knowing that there's always going to be another Delta somewhere in
Mhm.
that state or in that community that's going to accept you, welcome you with open arms, and ready to put you to work, essentially,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of work to do. So it's a wonderful organization to be a part of.
I'm wondering, do they have a dance? Like, are there specific dances for your
Yes,
sorority?
yes, you have a dance.
Because I noticed that when I went to one of the Kamala Harris rallies
Yeah. Oh,
at
yes.
Temple, I saw certain women dancing a certain way, and I assumed it was part of some type of sorority. Do you
Yes.
think that was probably it?
Yes, Kamala Harris is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority
Okay.
Incorporated. That was the
Mm.
first sorority,
Okay.
African American sorority, and
Mhm.
I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority
Okay.
Incorporated. So they're pink and green. You probably saw them, and they're pink and green, and we're
Okay.
crimson and cream, red and white.
Well, I love the dances. I'm a
Yes.
big fan. I love watching them. I have to learn how to do them one of these days. If you're allowed. I don't want
Right.
to.
I
I don't want
mean,
to get.
they might give you the side eye, but you could give it a try. You could give it
Okay.
a try.
Okay. Cringy moments for my kids. It's fine. Well, let's play another game called Pledging Yay or Nay. Okay. Now,
Okay.
I know that your sorority wasn't the type to embarrass you to get in. It was prestigious.
No.
Regrettably, I did pledge to a fraternity in college, and I did some ridiculous stuff. So I'm going to ask you if you participate in these activities to pledge to a sorority. Okay. So, would you eat a large raw red onion to get into a sorority?
Yes, I love red onions.
Okay, fine.
Actually.
You would eat a large. Just
Just take a bite if I
no, like the whole thing. You have to eat the entire
had
onion.
to get in.
Yeah, you do it?
Yeah, I'll do
Okay,
it.
fine. All right, I did it. So there you go. All right. Would you melt a bag of ice using only your body heat? An entire bag of ice?
That'll take too long. No.
No? Okay, fine.
You did that too?
I did that too. Yeah, I did that too.
It sounds like a good time.
I was such an idiot. I just can't. I'm only telling you a fraction of what I did. All right, so here's the last one. Would you dye your entire body violet from the neck down?
No.
You wouldn't do that?
You did that?
I did that.
No, you.
I did. It was at the end of Hell Night. It was the last night of pledging, and I went to the University of the Sciences, which no longer exists actually
What's
because
the name? Like this
St.
has so many
Joseph's.
different names.
St. Joseph's University bought it. But the last night of pledging, because it was a science, science college, they had this purple dye that they used in like science class. Well, they filled up this trash can full of warm water and they filled it up with this purple dye. And then we had to get it up to our neck and we were dyed purple from the neck down. And I got to say, so the purple dye did wash off after a couple months. It got under my fingernails. Okay. And that took a year to grow out. A year. I had purple finger, like underneath the nail beds was purple. Yeah, for a year. And my toenails.
What did your parents say?
Oh, they had no idea. They had no
you
idea.
said couple months. Where you didn't?
Yeah, but they do it in such a time where like it's early enough in the semester that by the time you go home, you won't even notice anymore. So yeah, I was very committed to the process, but I did it, Lauren. I did it. Those days are long gone.
My mom would have a fit.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the smartest thing I ever did, but I grew out of it clearly. Tell me about your current job as a lawyer and how it has prepared you to be a judge.
Right now, currently, so from being a public defender and then getting tapped. So while I was in the public defender's office, it wasn't a burnout it was an emotional burnout. I really took my cases and my clients to heart. And it got to a point where I was just seeing some of the inequalities in the criminal justice system. And it really, I just couldn't stomach them anymore. And I know I needed a break. So when I was looking for an opportunity, our now governor, then Commissioner Josh Shapiro, who I knew just from my mom being in that political space, I knew there was an opening in the solicitor's office, but you needed to have 7 to 10 years of experience. At this point, I was practicing for 3 years. So I applied and I begged for an opportunity to interview. And I said, I knew I could do this job. And they were looking for someone to handle all their health and human services departments. And that's where I am now. And even in that role, again, just seeing I'm still really involved in the justice system. Through this, from whether I'm doing mental health commitments to guardianship issues, I still see the intersection with social services and the justice system. And I feel like, again, that just prepared me on a different level. Let me see another side outside of criminal court. You see the civil side of things and just the same need, especially when I'm dealing with the vulnerable mentally ill and their involuntary mental health commitments and that process that's so antiquated. That's a story for another day that I often get on our state legislators about. But you just see the need for that same fairness, that same integrity, that same compassion. And again, that's just helped me with my decision even further of why I know this is for me, where I know I can make an impact.
It seems like a recurring theme is that you need to see people to be an effective judge. You need to see them, see what they're going through, see their background, see what difficulties they are having, the barriers that they have to interact with their communities and meet them where they are and judge fairly and effectively, because your judgments will affect the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
And I think most people don't ever want to see themselves in front of a judge unless they actually have to. And if you do need to see someone, you want to make sure that they're going to see you as the person that you are and your entire life story leading up to that. So I can understand how your experience as a lawyer would help prepare you for your role as a judge.
Yes. And I feel like people always try to pull me away to go into private practice. And I commend those that can do those long hours and make that big money. But my heart has always just been in public service. Montgomery County's bench judges are excellent judges. But I always think there can be a different perspective, especially if you didn't come from a certain demographic or if you didn't come from a certain area. You don't see some of the issues and you hear about them when you're on the bench for the first time and they're foreign to you. So you're quick to judge, right? Like we all have preconceived notions in our head, even though we're fair and in part. I hear all those terms, but the reality is everybody has grown up a certain way and can't ignore how your values and life experience have shaped who you are and some of your thought processes. So, you have to see different things to understand.
Understood. Well, I'm sure you're going to bring all the things you've seen to the bench. For sure. Do you have any hobbies?
Yes, I love to travel. I love to shop.
Okay. Do you like to travel and shop at the same time?
That's a perfect
Yeah.
combination.
Okay,
That's a
good.
perfect combination.
So if you could choose a place to go travel to and shop, where would that be?
One of my favorite places to travel and shop is Morocco. Have you
Ooh,
ever been to Morocco?
I have not.
Morocco it's beautiful, but it's a
Okay.
huge shopping mecca. And you can get anything from spices to rugs to scarves to, it's just, when I went, I need to go back with an empty suitcase next
Yeah.
time. I bought back so much stuff. Like, I have stuff in my kitchen to this day. I had to bring home this pot called a tangine that I still have never used, but I had to bring it home in my suitcase. This how they cook their cuisine. But I love, love, love Morocco. I think that's just, if you're ever looking for a nice, relaxing vacation, Morocco.
All right. Well, when the kids give me some time off, I'll call you. You can give me a nice itinerary and I'll jettison off with my wife. Okay.
I will.
Morocco and shopping and an empty suitcase.
Yes. Definitely empty suitcase. You're going to have rugs. You're going to have everything yeah.
Well, you were talking about earlier, you serve as a senior solicitor in the Montgomery County Solicitor's office. So what does this job entail specifically?
So in this role, I am the sole legal advisor for all the county's health and human services departments.
Okay.
So that's about 7 departments that I'm responsible for. So I do everything from advising, contract negotiations, contract reviews, approve all the contracts our commissioners sign to keep this county running. I do a lot in the mental health space with the mental health department. I do all of the involuntary mental health commitments for the county. And I can say this county has been doing phenomenal things to keep no services being interrupted. We're continually serving the people. So
yeah, I mean,
it's the work that I do.
I mean, health services are some of the most important things in any community.
Yes.
And so if any of those things start to lag, then, quality of life is going to go down.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine some of the cases that you see to make sure that those types of services don't grind to a halt.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
So I appreciate that as a physician. I want to make sure that in my community, people have access to health and human services. Well, let's play a game called Solicit or Cease and Desist. Okay. I'm going to give you some scenarios. You're going to say, you can solicit me with that, or no, cease and desist. Okay. So someone is going on a second date just to meet their dog again. Is that a solicitable thing or cease and desist? I'm not cool with that.
Cease and desist.
That'd be kind of weird. Right?
Little weird.
Like, I loved your dog so much. I just wanted you to take me out again.
I do have a best friend that loves animals just that much that she would probably do that.
No.
My best friend of 30 years. Yes.
That is hilarious.
She listens to this. She'll be like, yep, that's me. I don't like you. What? That dog.
They will suffer through the meal just to pet the dog.
Yes, she would.
All right, here's another one. You're running for office just to get revenge on your ex who said you peaked in law school.
What was it was cease and desist or what?
Or solicit.
Maybe solicit.
I know, right? A grudge with civic consequences.
Yes.
I know. It's nice to actually, when I was applying to medical school, I didn't have the best medical school entrance exam scores. They're called the MCATs. I did pretty well GPA wise, but my MCAT scores just weren't that great. And there were a couple people around me who were like, he's never getting into med school. He's not going to be a doctor. And it really hurt, And so eventually I did get into medical school and now I'm happy to say I'm a doctor. But yeah. I mean, come on. Internally, it feels good to...
Not just a doctor, okay? Can you tell... I'm sure you've done this on more than one of your podcasts, but for me, can you tell me and the people what kind of doctor? Because I think the fact that you do what you do during the day and still take time for us at night is phenomenal.
So I'm an anesthesiologist, but also with a critical care fellowship. So I take care of critically ill patients in the ICU. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's crazy.
How do you do it all? And a husband and a father? How?
I think I have a very high resting cortisol level, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, I don't drink coffee. I think I would drink it if it tasted good, to be honest, because I love eating and drinking sweet, lovely things. But I've just always been a get up and go guy. There's just something in me. And this podcast really is my contribution to Pennsylvania to promote positive democratic values and get democratically endorsed candidates elected. So to me, it is somewhat just as important as my day job.
We thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you for all the service.
Absolutely. All right, here's the last one. Doing a TikTok trend to explain your judicial philosophy, but in a robe and slippers.
A robe and slippers?
Oh, yeah, sure. You can put on your sneakers if you want to, put on your robe at home and do a little TikTok. What do you think?
Solicit.
Solicit, yeah. And I think you have to meet people where they are. And if you make a TikTok when you become a judge, I will duet you. Okay. I will totally duet your videos and make stitches. I love TikTok so much.
Me too. That's my guilty pleasure. Every night I go, I don't even turn on the TV. Like TikTok, I get all my news, my current events, my shopping,
well,
my recipes, everything's on TikTok.
You better reserve your name, Judge Hughes. You better reserve that on TikTok right now.
Good idea. Tonight.
Perfect. I can't wait to see it. Some people say that interpreting the law shouldn't be a partisan issue, okay? But history has shown us time and time again that political ideologies influence decisions in the judicial system. So you are being endorsed by the Democratic Party. How does being a Democrat influence your interpretations of the law?
Good question. I believe that interpreting the law shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be firmly rooted in the law and applying it fairly. However, like I said before, that we can't ignore people's backgrounds and values and life experiences. Like you can't ignore those perspectives, and those can, influence how people approach or how judges approach justice. Like, I think it's just not even reasonable to think that someone's, sitting on the bench and don't already have these preconceived notions about someone they see in front of them. And as a Democrat, as a lifelong Democrat, I've always just believed in fairness, right? And fairness and equal treatment under the law. And everybody should be treated fairly. And everybody is entitled to services or the same respect and dignity and things like that. So, I mean, my party affiliation, it reflects my commitment to that justice and to justice and compassion and all those things. But truly, I just believe everybody deserves to be heard and treated with dignity. And I always say that, one of the things about me, and when I was going around campaigning, I always left with one quote. It was like the end of all my little stump speech. I always left with by Maya Angelou, that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I always said that I vow that anybody that comes before me will feel respected and heard and will receive closure. And I feel like if people feel respected and heard, no matter if you rule in their favor, right? They can walk out feeling that closure and feel like they were heard. Might not have got the result that they wanted, but they felt that they were respected. So, I think that's what my democratic values, just the very baseline is just fairness for all.
Yeah, and it's the value system. I 100% agree with you. If you've been endorsed by the Democratic Party, that means that you embody the platform, the values that you will bring to the bench. And that to me is extremely important. And I'm going to be able to vote for you because you live, I live in Montgomery County, and I certainly want, I may never interact with you, but I want everyone who does interact with you to be seen by someone who holds my democratic values. So it is very important to me. So why should people care about judicial races in Pennsylvania?
Because we are the backstop of justice. Listen, you have to care. I mean, we're the judges, who says it best? It was Justice Doggett, who's running for Supreme Court. Attention on the Supreme Court. He always says when he speaks, he talks about with the stroke of a pen, the judge can take your freedom, they can take your house, they can take your children. And you think about that. When he says it, it's so impactful. Like I see, I've sat next to him and I watched people as he said this, and they're looking like, wow, we don't even think about it that way. But not only that, we can protect your rights. We protect the Constitution. It is so important. Like I can't stress it enough. And it kind of stresses me out when I have to, go to different places when I'm meeting people where they are. I go into the local barbershops, just trying to get people engaged to register to vote. Why voting is important, and especially why judges are important. Because the only time they want to talk about it is if it's a family member that went in front of a judge and they're like, that judge is not fair. And I'm like, did you vote for that person? Did you retain that judge if you had an issue? So again, it's just judges are the backstop. We're like your second line of defense.
Right.
Against this crazy world that we live in. And that's why judges are important.
Super important. Justice Dougherty, he's one of the 3 state Supreme Court justices we must retain this November 4th because, Elon Musk already tried in Wisconsin and failed. And he's going to be bringing his millions to Pennsylvania to try and get those state Supreme Court justices not retained. And that would be a huge problem for Pennsylvanians because, as you said, our rights are on the line. And while the state Supreme Court is super important, I also believe that your role on the Common Pleas Court is just as important. All levels of the court system matter. And so I too understand your sentiment that you are the backstop, and I want you there having my back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's just, again, just getting out, and it's people like you with this podcast. And once this airs, I'm going to just make sure people listen, because they just have to know why this stuff is important.
They have to.
I mean, and just your story and who you are. And I think you make this fun and inviting and exciting. Some podcasts about politics, people don't want to hear about, but to keep it fun, maybe can help. We have to start somewhere. We have to meet people. There's still so much work to do. Like as I'm knocking doors, I'm knocking on people's doors. They're like, there's an election this year. I'm like, there's an election every year.
Every year.
It freaks me out. They're like, wait, we just had one. I'm like, and there's another one, and there'll be another one next year and another one the year after that. Like,
I know.
It's every year. These
every
are
year.
People.
I know. I just want to empower people. We have so much power. Your vote is the most powerful thing in a democracy. It's the most powerful thing. If it didn't matter, then the Republican Party wouldn't be trying to suppress it all the time. And so it does matter. And so I'll keep it fun. I'll keep it light, but I want people to feel empowered and to know that you can make a difference one vote at a time. What gives you hope?
Just my life gives me hope that it is possible for others. And when I speak to other people, like I look at my journey just from losing my father at a young age, not getting into law school, not passing the bar on the first try, becoming a lawyer. And after being a lawyer for 10 years, being able to, one of my all-time goals, to be able to run for judge and be an endorsed candidate where other people saw that light in me, saw the experience in me, saw that I could do this. That gives me hope that people are watching and that you can literally I don't want to say come from nothing, but you can literally come from, failure and really just overcome and still be anything you want to be. And you've always heard you can be anything you want to be, but that gives me hope that people are actually, they see me and that I can then share my story with someone else and that they can know that it's possible. Like you don't, you think that you have to be the valedictorian of your class or the head of the law report. Like you don't have to do all of those things. You just have to have the heart, the will, the passion, and the drive to do it. So that it gives me hope, because even during this process, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. Like I knew, again, I had that 55-60 because I didn't think you could do it in your 30s. I didn't think anyone would take you seriously because we haven't seen it done. But I did it, and it's possible. And I hope that I encourage other people. So that's a roundabout way of saying it gives me hope that people are paying attention, that they're seeing things differently now. So that's what it's a roundabout way. Does that answer the question?
It does. I mean, hope is a verb. Hope is a verb, and you have to get up every day and do something to accomplish that hope. And you've had great accomplishments and setbacks and some little failures, but at the end of the day, you kept moving forward, and you had a great support system, and you had great people in your community that lifted you up, I'm sure, when things got hard. And that's also part of hope. You need to surround yourself with hopeful people. And so that totally makes sense. Yeah. Well, what plans do you have to get yourself through these next few years?
I'm going to spend a lot of time just volunteering, doing things that I'm passionate about still in the community. So I'm looking forward to these next couple of years. And I oftentimes now when I'm in court, I have judges that talk to me and they kind of give me their little things. And one particular judge was like, you need to get yourself a book. And he calls his book, what does he call it? The turn off the lights. He says every day before he goes home, he writes in his book, whether there's a lawyer that comes in, that's a complete, he'll write that in his book, like it's a complete jerk, or this person did this. He'll write that in his book, and he closes his book and he turns off his lights, and he's like, he leaves it there.
And that's
and he's
it.
like, and he's been on the bench 20 plus years. He's like, I have so many of these books.
Gosh.
So you have to get yourself a release that you don't walk out of here holding on to all of this stuff. So these are all the things I'm like, these nuggets. I'm like, okay. Because I tend to carry things. I'm like, I can't carry all of this.
I got to say, we need to get a hold of that book. Okay. Because that would make an amazing docuseries, or I could make a lot of TikTok videos out of that. There'd be some good, juicy stuff in there.
After a couple of years, I'll share my book.
All right, good. Yeah, please do. Keep my number.
I think I'm going to have one of those books too.
Keep my number. Well, Lauren Hughes, running for the Court of Common Pleas in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, the democratically endorsed candidate who I will be proud to vote for.
Thank you, Dr. Z.
Very excited for your campaign. How can we support your campaign?
Please visit my website. It's www.laurenhughespa.com. Please just visit my website. Any way that you can lend your talents to me. We always need volunteers. If you have some free time and you want to volunteer, myself, Mary Pugh, Ray McGarry, we're the 3 Democrat endorsed candidates, and we all need your help. We're running as a team. There's 3 spots. There's 3 candidates. We can all be elected, and we all need your help. So if you visit my website, you can enter your information. We would love to have you volunteer with us and just get to know us. So thank you, Dr. Zeke. This was fun. I was so nervous, but you made this so enjoyable. I loved all the games.
Absolutely.
I have to do this again just to play the games.
Well, I'm sure that this will not be our last interaction. I'm super happy for you, and I know you're going to get across the finish line.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on the Zekely Podcast. Stay hopeful and get involved. And until next time, let's keep building a stronger Pennsylvania together.